All right. Looks like folks are coming in. It is 2:03 on the first Tuesday of August, which means it is time for the Nautilus Notes. Woo! There it is.
Not exactly the reaction you heard.
How's everybody doing tonight?
Nautilus Notes, that's what we're doing here.
That's right.
It was a subtle entry.
All right. Oh,
That noise is
Audio
going
is
to go
on.
away. Who's got to mute the TV, please?
wait, did someone say Siri to do that?
Just bedlam.
All right, we got 25 people getting in here. Oh, Carl, you're an attendee. We need to.
I am?
We're gonna promote you to panelist. Give you a little more power there.
Oh, I'm being rejoined.
All right. Now you have worth. I'm just kidding. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today for the August edition of the Nautilus Notes. What is the Nautilus Notes? It's a chance for us to come together as the Skuid technical community and share what we're learning throughout the week. This is something that, or actually the month, something that we do weekly internally because folks that are out there building Skuid pages, Skuid apps, run into things, great combos of functionality where they might run into a Skuid bug or something to share, and we don't want that knowledge to stay locked up with that person. And so by sharing it, we can all get better together and see some really cool stuff. And so that's why we're getting together to do this. It's kind of a weird format. We've got a doc that we go through that's kind of our outline that we follow, and that's what I'm sharing here on the screen. And we'll go through some lessons learned, a couple of segments, and we've also got some Q&A in there as well. So if you have questions, use the Q&A feature in Zoom. There's also public chat, which is a little bit more of Wild West. Take what you get. All right. Well, my name is Matt Brown. I'm a solutions architect here at Skuid, and I will be hosting today. And Carl Sheffield, product manager on the use team. Carl,
Hey everybody.
Hello.
I brought another team member.
Oh, that's great.
This is the promptness pig.
The promptness pig.
Yeah, and the time turkey.
And the time turkey. Oh, very good alliteration. Excellent. As you can tell, our tone here is a little bit more casual than the normal webinar. So we intend to have fun and talk about cool stuff. So anyways, let's go ahead and dive in. So first thing, I want to talk about a couple things that are happening at Skuid. The first is something that we do every week, and that is me and Carl and sometimes some folks from the product content team. Zach sometimes comes. We do a new to Skuid webinar, and it's a chance for you to come if you are just diving in, if you're testing Skuid out, it's your first time building pages. We take 30 minutes, go through the basics of getting set up on Skuid and, the tour of the app, how to use the composer, and then point you to the resources and get you going. So if you know someone that is just, vetting Skuid or they're testing or they're trying it out, that's a great place to get started. And we recommend that you go there first and then come to a Nautilus Notes. I mean, you can always come to Nautilus Notes, but this is a little bit more of the deep end for people that have been getting into Skuid for a while. So if this is your first time really seeing what's going on at Skuid, it might be kind of bonkers, but it might be kind of cool, so stick around. But again, great place to get started, the new to Skuid webinar. And I'll go ahead and put that link here in the chat. Alan, you're good, man. You've been to Skuid HQ. You don't need floaties. All right, but yeah, if you know someone who is just getting into Skuid for the first time, send them here. We'd love to talk to them. We do some Q&A there as well. Okay, we've got a deep dive scheduled for next week. We're going to talk about, well, I'm not going to spoil it because we're actually going to give you a little bit of a preview of that in today's Nautilus Notes, but Zach and I are going to be doing that, and we'll post the link here in a second. All right, and then I'm going to flip the order of these. What are you saying non-verbally, Jackson? You all right?
Yeah, I'm good.
You good? All right, awesome.
Hey, everyone.
Welcome. Cool. Yeah, I'm going to flip the order of these. So first is Skuid Labs. We talk about, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, we have a contest.
What?
So, yeah.
Tell us more. Tell us more.
So we talk about Skuid Labs. It's a segment every time. Skuid Labs is our GitHub repo where you can post cool stuff that extends Skuid, possibly with code, or maybe really just really cool declarative pages that bring together different features. And it's a place to go share. It's managed by the community. And we've seen some really cool stuff come from Skuid SEs. We'd love to see more stuff come from the Skuid technical community at large. So basically, people that are on the Nautilus Notes today. And so if you've got something really cool, a custom renderer, a snippet, or maybe just a really cool declarative page that you've built that's reusable in some way, we want you to go post it. And so I double checked with Cody on our product content team. He manages in part Skuid Labs, and that's kind of his baby. And so he gave me the okay to basically say, you got a month to go put some cool stuff in there. And we'll kind of internally vote. And the coolest thing we see on there, we'll send a t-shirt to you. And we'll announce the winner on our next Nautilus Notes. So yeah, we'll talk about Skuid Labs later. We got a really cool thing on Skuid Labs that we'll talk about today. All right, last thing. So looking ahead a couple months, Skuid is going to be at Dreamforce. Really, really excited about it. Ever since I've been at Skuid, I've been given the chance to go to Dreamforce every year, and it really is something. It's really exciting. We'll have a big presence there. We would love to meet you. And so what I would like to do now is do our first poll. We do 2 polls every Nautilus Notes. We want to know, are you going to Dreamforce? So go ahead, take a second, answer that. Let us know if you're going to be there, because we would love to connect with you, see what you're doing in Salesforce, see what you're doing with Skuid. All right, awesome. So quote of the month, courtesy or the credit goes to Greg Smith, who lent me his copy of the Mythical ManMonth. And if you're a Skuid employee, he says that this can be distributed around here. It's about programming, and it was written like 40 years ago, but believe it or not, it is still very, very relevant. And there's just quote after quote in there that is just awesome. And I really like this one because if you're a builder, if you're in the business of building things that people use, you know that you constantly have to deal with hype from competitors, from expectations, and there's just no substitute for actually giving someone something that is useful. So the real tiger is never a match for the paper one unless actual use is wanted. Then the virtues of reality have a satisfaction all their own. One way that this has played out for me personally is I'm working with customers. I've found that I'm actually able to wireframe in Skuid pretty easily. Once you get to understand Skuid and how the components work, you can put something in front of someone and say, hey, is this what you mean? And there is just no substitute for that. So anyways, it's a good quote. It's a good book. Highly recommend it. And it'll be making the rounds here at Skuid. All right, so our first segment, this is something that we do every time. We call it the contributor's choice. And basically, if you spend a lot of time in Skuid, or actually most people when they find Skuid, they're trying to solve a very specific problem. And it can be really easy to go really, really deep in one part of Skuid and not even know about this whole other area that has tons of functionality. And so we want to hear from folks that are building our product about the things that they want to remind you about. Hey, there's this really cool thing. And so I asked Zach, this is something he's been excited about. talking about for a while. Zach, what's a combo box?
Well, I will show you.
All right.
I'm gonna go ahead and I'll start sharing my screen. And I'll show you what a combo box is.
So Zach is our principal developer advocate, and he spent a lot of time working on Skuid over the years.
Before I talk about combo boxes, I want to talk about just in general field properties. I think as a builder in Skuid, if you are not aware of a lot of the next level customizability of Skuid components, you're missing out on a lot of power. And I think a lot of you probably are very aware of this, but it helps to be reminded and shown just kind of reminded about some of the ways that you can go deeper. So what I'm going to show you is in the composer, many times there are properties on a field in the model that let you go deeper with customizing the functionality of that field. There are also properties that are down in the composer or in the workspace. You can go further extend that at the UI level. So this is going to allow you to have the same field from a model be used differently, maybe in different parts of your UI. So like maybe you want to have a pick list field rendered in some places as a normal pick list. Maybe some places you want to have it rendered as a set of radio buttons. Maybe other places as a button group. Or maybe you want to have a multi-select pick list be rendered as checkboxes instead of the regular multi-select renderer. So those are some properties. That's just one example of properties you can have at the field level in the workspace. Just what that looks like. Just to give you an example, for instance, here we've got a pick list with 3 options. Let me go show you back in the regularly you've got the kind of pick list renderer where you can select the choices, but all I have to do is go back to the field's properties and change it to radio or to button group. That button group is new in V2. Very cool.
Oh man.
I want to say beta instead of gamma. So you can immediately just change the behavior in specific areas of the UI. But if I added another instance of this, I could have this one be rendered as a radio. And so maybe if I've got different scenarios, like with conditional rendering, I want to have it sometimes make sense to be a radio, sometimes it makes sense to be a pick list. You can have both of those scenarios by having different display as or render as options for the specific use of that. Give you another example. This one I love. We'll go over into the V1 composer. I know there's a reason for that, but we go to this date time field. If you notice, if you go into the advanced properties, if you ever see advanced on a property, you probably want to go check that and see what goodness lies.
Yeah, this is cool stuff.
So dates and date times specifically, there's some gooey goodness in there. So this one, there are lots of options. You can do things.
Is GUI goodness GUI goodness?
Oh
or,
man, I don't know.
GOOEY.
Where's the time turkey?
Hopefully it's done.
Yeah, totally.
It's totally.
All right, sounds good.
So by default, the date time picker does not have a month picker or a year picker. It also doesn't have a today button. But with a few clicks, you can change that. You can go into turn those things on, and then you get a month picker up here, you get a year picker, and a today button. So if I want to, for instance, it's really useful with like birth dates, or maybe you have like a constrained range related to like event time frames or something like that. You don't want it to have all of the options possible, just a few, maybe plus or minus. You can easily customize that by going into the lower bound and have it be kind of like, this is cool. It lets you do it both by selected. So like, let's say the initial value is like, 1934, and you want to have it be around 1934 instead of around 2014.
Hold on, how long has this been in here?
This has been in here. So this has been in here for about 5 or 6 years.
Are you kidding me?
No. This is why we're doing this.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So no, because I say this all the time, but like I've worked at Skuid basically since its beginning. And regularly I come across features that I never knew were in there because they're in some nook and cranny. So, okay.
This is one of those crannies.
Oh my
Or
gosh.
one of those decks. It is one of those. Yeah, so lots of power here. Another example is the minute picker increment. This is really nice. Depending on what your scenario is, you might not really care about letting the user pick down to the granularity of 1 minute. but sometimes you might only want it to be every 15 minutes that you want them to be able to pick. So you can just go select that property right there and take it down to minute up to half an hour granularity on the time picker. So really, that's really helpful for when you're working with times and then the date range. So just like that, you get a few options.
Cool.
So that's one, but I want to just spend a few more minutes talking about probably one of my favorite one of my favorite renderer options, which is the combo box. Okay, so the combo box came in a few years ago, and you might be familiar with this if you guys work in Salesforce Skuid. There is a field on the task or event object called the subject field, which has this really strange behavior that you can't do anywhere else in Salesforce, where you can have you can pick from a set of options, like send an email or a phone call for like what kind of a task did you do? Did you call somebody? Did you in-person meet with them? Have a web meeting? But you can also break the pattern and go put your own stuff in. So let's say you don't use GoToMeeting and you use Zoom or Hangouts. It's fully okay to have whatever values you want. The stuff on the right is basically just like starters. They're like starter templates. So what Skuid added a few years ago was the ability to not just render the fields like that as combo boxes, but you can do that on any field. You can take any field you want and turn it into a combo box. And this is insanely helpful. You can do that with, like, to take any text field, for instance, that right now may not have, it's not a pick list, maybe in your database. It's not an enum or SQL. It's none of those. But you can impose a pick list constraint on top of it in the Skuid UI just by going to the field and saying, I want to make this. You can override the metadata for one. This is a UI only model, so I'm not overriding it. I'm just saying it's a combo box. But you can override a text field metadata to be a combo box. Once you do that, you can then go specify the pick list entries you want to allow users to enter. So, for instance, you might have a certain scenario for certain users where you want to have a text field only have, like, say, 10 allowed values. Maybe in other parts of your app, the input can be different. It can not be restricted. But for maybe one particular scenario, you want to restrict the input. So this is a great way to do that.
And I worked with a customer. They had a pick list field, and they wanted it to have type ahead functionality as well. And this was one of those scenarios where I was like, dang, we can't do that. And I think I was talking to you and you're like, no, just make it a combo box. And sure enough, I was able to go, and I didn't need to specify any of the entries. I just overrode the metadata and had it render as a combo box, and it automatically pulls in your pick list metadata. But you also get that type ahead functionality.
Yeah. Now, another powerful feature of the combo box, which is available, is the restrict input. So this is really cool because it allows you to say, I don't just, that basically gives you what you're talking about, where you have a set of pick list entries and you just want that type ahead functionality. Like, you want to be able to have the user default to a type ahead where they can say, so I have my choices here, alpha, but you can't break the mold. So if I want to say zeta, no, boom, you can't.
Oh, wow.
So the restrict is really nice for having that, like, no, only the entries you're given, that's it. Can't get around it. Whereas the unrestricted version is great for just giving people suggestions. Like, here's suggested inputs or that you can start with. Then you can go expand on that. Phone call with Joe. You can go just break the mold. Now, the one thing before I'm done here is the other thing that's really powerful about pick lists is that you can specify a return, or pick list or combo boxes, you can specify a return type that is different than it's not just text. So this is really cool when you have either, let's say, a Boolean under the hood or a number, but you want to have friendlier user-facing text on top of it. So in this example, I've got alpha is my label for choice number 1, but the value under the hood is the number 1. And beta translates to the number 2, or gamma translates to the number 3. You could do that with all kinds of different things. You can have a checkbox. Maybe you want the 2 choices to be sí, señor, and claro que no. And you want to translate those into false and true. Well, you can do that by having it return a checkbox.
Awesome.
You can have your 2 choices return true or false. So there's just lot of cool things you can do there too. Different user-facing behavior than what's going into the database. Squid pages do not have to. Yeah, they can work the way your people do, not the way that your database
Hey,
does.
that sounds familiar.
I don't know where I've heard that before. All right, that's all for now.
Awesome. All right. So I do want to call out the chaos in the chat around the migrate to V2 button. Working on it. Working on it.
Direct feedback.
Oh yeah.
This is wonderful.
Pay no attention.
That's good.
Behind the curtain.
Yeah, that's right. All right. So, man,
Sorry, Jackson, I blew that.
there were some.
I saw it on the screen and I was like, somebody's gonna ask.
Yeah.
And that somebody is my man Jackson.
Maybe we should talk about that.
Golf clap for Jack.
That's right. Absolutely. Okay. So.
Eli Stanford.
Zach, there's so many properties, and we just like scratched the surface. I feel like we should have a session where we can spend some more time digging into field
do a deep
properties.
If only there
Should
was.
we do a deep dive on that? I think we should. So if you're interested in coming to a deep dive on field properties, I'm going to go ahead and put a Zoom webinar registration link there into the chat. Zach and I are going to get together next Tuesday and spend a full hour getting into field properties. There is so much that you can do with field property configuration. We didn't even touch reference fields where you can go add lookup filters. You can have them do SOSL search instead of SOCL search. All kinds of cool stuff that you can do with reference, and that's just reference fields. So we'll look at that and a bunch of other things that you can do with field properties, both at that model level with the data and at the UI level at the component. So Zach, thanks so much. Man, I've learned things that I just never knew were possible in Skuid. Awesome.
That's a beautiful thing. I love it when I really do. I love it when you say like, "What? That's there?"
Yeah, I know.
Because I'm always feeling like I'm the one doing it.
Yeah,
I like
just
stump Matt Brown.
we have a dose of humility for everybody. All right, let's go ahead and let's dive into a couple of lessons learned. So again, regularly we have solutions engineers that are going and building things with Skuid, and they're learning about the different things that you can do, running into limitations, but also finding some really cool things. And one of these things that was shared internally was a Google Calendar integration. So Rachel, tell us a little bit about what you built and why you built it.
Okay. My video?
Yep, we can see you.
All right, great. So talking about the Skuid has a internal Google Calendar connector. I don't know if that's sharing my screen.
Oh, hold on. I think we both tried to share at the same time.
Oh no.
Try it again.
Okay, cool. Let's see.
So yeah, Google we have a number of Google data sources, pre-configured data sources in Skuid, and one of those is Google Calendar. So you were working with that for a Skuid project?
Mm-hmm. So we needed, in our scenario, the ability to connect event meetings. We needed the meetings for the customer facing to be configured in Google Calendar, but we also needed the meetings to be tracked in our CRM with more metadata about the customer so that sales could be properly comped and so on and so forth. And Skuid allows both of these data sources to talk to each other and be configured. So I started digging into this. I thought it was going to be really complicated, but actually our Google Calendar connection is surprisingly easy, or not so surprisingly easy, I should say.
There you go.
So the main thing is to have your Google project properly set up, pull in your OAuth credentials from there, make sure your Skuid site is enabled, and then enable the APIs that you want. Google has really good documentation for how to do this. So if you want to go look more at that, just check out their documentation. Then once you have put in your documentation or your authentication in Skuid, then that same authentication can be reused for any other
Right.
Google connection that you
Cool.
set up within the project.
Very cool.
So from there, you just need to go into your Skuid settings and
And actually, one note, we do have in our docs, in the Skuid docs, we have a walkthrough on setting up Google Calendar data source as well. So
yeah,
docs
so
all around for everyone.
docs are great.
It's beautiful.
The really nice thing with setting up a Google Calendar connection is that if you have if you select that data source type, then Skuid fills in those endpoints usually, except when I go in and try and do a demo.
Naturally, it's just the law.
Yeah, of course. But normally it fills in all of your demos. Let's see. No. Technical difficulties. So then in the Skuid Builder, once you have set up that data source, then you have Skuid gives you two different types of models that you can do. You can do an event model. That's a calendar list model. Event model and a calendar model. Probably going to use event a little bit more often since this is all the actual event that you have. Skuid fills in these conditions for you. The primary pulls in your primary Google Calendar based on the authentication that you pull in. And then you pull in the weeks that you want. The other model that you can pull in is calendar. This will pull all the lists of possible calendars that you have access to if you want to go look at other calendars. And then if you want to go and pull in a different calendar that's not your primary calendar, then you can do other detail events. You just have to pull in the ID, and you can pull in that ID from going to the calendar settings and grabbing that calendar ID, or you can pull it.
Yeah, and also just because I know we've got a diversity of Skuid backgrounds for the folks on the call today. If you are new to Skuid, basically in Skuid you set up data sources. Those connect to Salesforce org or Google project. And then when you build a Skuid page, you can set up a model that connects to an object within Salesforce. You can also set up a model that connects to a REST endpoint or a table or another data source. And so you can have as many models in your page as you need. And so having models that connect to that list of calendars, as well as models that connect to actual events displayed from a calendar, is going to let you have very, very rich functionality in a single screen without having to navigate away.
Yep, exactly. So this is, for instance, off of that page that I just gave you a back-end view to, an example of pulling in Google Calendar information, pulling in a list of calendars that I want to have here, which, hey, actually Google lets you pull in colors too, so that's great. Don't have to worry about any of that.
So those colors are coming from Google?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, no custom rendering needed there. And,
Awesome.
then Skuid, of course, lets you decide, hey, actually, I want my calendar to be on there so that I can see if I have things, but I don't want anybody to see actually what I'm doing, so I can hide all that if I so desire, or just hide it.
Very cool.
And then another thing that Skuid lets you do is if you are adding in a calendar and you say, oh, hey, I want to define this email template that's going to go in. I want to pull merge values into it, grab my list of attendees from my contacts list. Then this marries whatever CRM functions that you need to have and your event invites together. It makes it a lot easier.
Then this is the Skuid calendar component. And are you connecting this calendar component to multiple models to display
Yes.
different calendars? Awesome. So you could have Salesforce events in one model and then Google Calendar events in another model and display those in the same calendar side by side. Very, very cool. Awesome. Cool. Anything else you wanted to show here?
I think that's it. For this,
Cool. Awesome. Rachel, thank you so much. That's fantastic. Yeah, that's great. I think we've built like a new calendar app for every Dreamforce, something like that, using latest of Skuid technology. Anyways, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Rachel. And do you have a mic on there? Maybe, I don't know if you're, you got it? Cool. Good deal.
Okay, Matt, we're about 30 minutes in.
30 minutes in, time for the time turkey. Yep, got it. The reign of iron. Excellent. Okay, so our other lesson learned that I wanted to talk about this month for the August Nautilus Notes is about iframes. Iframes provoke very animated responses from
they
folks.
provoke all right.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, and I get it. And I asked Jeff, who is a very experienced designer here at Skuid, and our VP of product, why he hates iframes, and he said, well, because it's actually primarily about scrolling experiences. If you have multiple scroll bars, either horizontally or vertically, that's just a bad experience. So that means that iframes are not inherently bad. It's just hard to do them well. And then there are other considerations as well. But from an experience standpoint, that's one of the things to watch out for. But there are going to be times when you still have to put some content in there, or you have to embed a third-party application that you're not going to rebuild from scratch. And so you just got to have an iframe. And so with Skuid, you can do it in two ways. In V1, we have a template component that you can use to embed content. And then in V2, you can do that using a text component. There's an HTML property in the text component that lets you do it. I wanted to give 3 examples. So we're going to do a whirlwind tour of 3 examples of embedding some content in an iframe to paint a picture for you. So Justin, tell us a little bit about the use case that you've got there. And you might need to project too, sorry.
Yes. Okay. So yeah, this is a really cool, valuable way that I think iframes can be used. I'm going to actually skip straight to the demo.
Oh man, gosh, don't beat around the bush. Go straight to it. All right.
All right, 1 second. Okay, perfect. So what we're looking at here is, and I guess before I get started, I want to make sure that I don't take actual credit for this. This has been our demo org. Our demo team has different variations of this, and Amy DeWall helped me with this specific use case for a customer very recently.
Shout out to Amy.
Blew their mind. Let's jump into it. What I'm showing here right now on the left is a simple table that's actually looking into a Google Drive folder. So I have that Drive folder up here, another tab. I'll get into this ID in just a moment and where we're going to use that.
And you are in Salesforce right now. This is a Visualforce page, it looks like?
Correct.
Cool.
Yes. So I'm in Salesforce. I'm able to see a list of my files in the Drive folder that I just pulled up. And I've got some row actions over here to the left that just have basic edit. And what this does is pass row context into an iframe right over here and gives me full functionality, full access to a Google spreadsheet. In these use cases, I have Google Docs and Google Spreadsheets, but this can work with any Google Drive specific folder. So here we're actually looking at the Nautilus Notes that we're going through right now. Yeah, so this opens up the door for a ton of value. In this specific use case, we had a customer looking for real-time document collaboration. When I first heard that, I thought that was insane.
And you didn't want to rebuild, you didn't want to rebuild Google Docs from scratch?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I did not. And
Okay.
so this is just a really simple use case of how Skuid can surface that in the same UI using an iframe, but in a very creative, calculated way that I guess, really match that need exactly. You have access to all of the Google Drive normal functions. You can add it to yours. You can share it. You can see some document history. You can print it. You can export it as a PDF or
Awesome.
any of these other file types. And
This solves our print problems too.
problem solved. Yeah. And
Your roadmap brought to you by iframes.
So yeah, it's a really good use case. I'm going to jump in the back here. Let me show one more thing. I do have a conditionally rendered row action that shows up for non-editable documents like PDFs. And so this shows up. It's the text that it's not that. I'll show you how that works in just a moment. But we can pop that out into another tab and still, again, have access to the native Google Drive functions.
Awesome.
We can add it, we can share it,
Whoa.
we can star it,
Man.
so on and so forth. So how does it work? Very easily, actually.
Well,
we have
hold
one
on.
line
Let's
of
not
code,
set
and that's
expectations here.
only- And that's only if you count HTML markup as code.
Okay.
So what I've got going on here is a UI model that drives a little bit of logic. And inside of there, I just have two fields, one for the selected file and then one for the new file name. And I actually didn't show that a second ago. I'll do that at the end. And below that, we have a model that is connected to Google Drive. Just like Google Calendar is a built-in data source for Skuid, we can connect to Google Drive that same way. It's extremely easy. When you do set up a new data source that's with Google Drive, it automatically populates and generates these three conditions here. So the first one is a really important one that gives you context on which Google Drive folder to look at. And so if we look at my folder up here in another tab, you'll notice that this ID is the same, that I've entered that same ID here as this parameter value. And so what this does is just give this model direct context of that Google Drive folder. And then, of course, you can bring in any relevant fields for your use case. We have several in here. Again, you may have a few others that maybe you want to see who has modified it and when that date was. Completely up to you. You can add those in. And then down in the composer, we have a responsive grid with the table on the left and a template on the right. And so the table is looking at the file model, which gives it direct access to that list of documents that we looked at. And then I have a few buttons on here. The first one is edit, and that's the button we were clicking earlier that allows us to pass the context into the iframe. And so all I do here is update the UI only model, and I use the rows in context. And I'm updating the field selected value with an alternate link. And what that does is pass that row context over into this template on the right-hand side.
So I want to call something out here because this is one of the places that Skuid is really, really helpful. So this isn't just a generic URL that you've got. It gets dynamically constructed because that template component is on your UI model. And
Correct.
so you've got merge in that iframe that gets updated whenever the model gets updated, which is how you're able to go back and forth between those docs. So that's that unique functionality of being able to have that model that connects to a component that gets dynamically updated anytime you update your model.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah, thanks
Very
for that.
cool.
So here, yeah, you can see that merged value selected field or selected file, which we saw in the UI only model earlier. Again, this template has context of the UI only model. And so that's updated each time you click the edit button. And that's what drives this functionality right here.
That's awesome.
Very, very cool stuff. And again, extremely easy. I made this longer than I had to by putting the width and some height rules and a style line. But if you count this as code, I guess
Jeff would
that's
be
all it
happy.
takes.
Jeff would be happy.
We do have one other quick example of how you can integrate these two, and that's with generating a new document. I only made 2 buttons for a document or a spreadsheet, but again, you can make any using our built-in data source actions, again, without any code.
Cool. Man.
You can easily add in a test doc, and that's going to show up over here in our list, and we can take a peek and start
man.
putting it together.
Awesome.
And just showing how that works really quick, I have a button that opens a pop-up. Again, I have this field editor on the UI only model, and the field that I'm showing is the new file name. We saw that earlier. And each one of these buttons is extremely easy. We're going to go over here to the actions. We're going to show a message in block UI. Then we're going to run a Google Drive data source action that creates the file. And then again, we can make any type of Google Drive file or folder using this data source action without any code, all built into Skuid.
We can make a drawing. Oh, nice.
Yes. Yeah.
Awesome. There we go.
So
All right.
there we go. That's all I got.
Thank you, Justin. That was awesome. Very, very cool. And I'm going to quickly pass it over now to Carl, who has some of our deepest Microsoft ecosystem expertise in-house. Yeah. And so, yeah, this is the, let me ask, what environment is this in? Is this in platform that you're going to be showing? Is it in Salesforce? Or what are you embedding in?
I will be showing in the Skuid Platform.
Skuid Platform. Okay, cool.
I'll be using B1 pages.
All right, that's fine.
And so I'll try to go quick.
Yeah,
because
go for it. You're good.
Time is very important.
We're doing good.
I was thinking maybe skipping this and saying, well, we don't have enough time for this.
No. Let's do it.
But I will. I'll share here. Let's see. Oh, I want to just share this. Okay, cool. All right, share.
So what are we looking at?
Just come on, Matt. Give me a break.
Sorry. I don't know.
You can't rush richness. Okay, so here's what we have. I've got Power BI report here. In Power BI over here, we've got just a simple report. That a lot of times people might want to integrate or incorporate a BI tool into Skuid, and we've seen that with Power BI, what we can do is we can embed a report in a Skuid page using an iframe. So that's what we got. There are two ways to do it, and they're in our Nautilus Notes doc.
Which I think we're going to try and make available as a PDF.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a not so secure way, and it depends on what kind of data you want to share from your corporate environment to the web. And then there's a much more secure way, but that more secure way, it requires additional licensing from Microsoft, and
Which you don't have.
well, my licensing may have expired for that one.
Oh, got it.
But really, the difference is over in, let's see, let me go to the page. And, okay, so this is a beautiful sample page. This page is connected to Dynamics 365 for sales. And I've got account list there and user list. So
Skuid components,
it's beautiful.
tables.
They're wonderful.
Great.
Now, on the top here, I've got an iframe that's actually showing some report data, and that's the Power BI report, and that is using the publish to web method, which is the not so secure way. So
out there for everyone.
over in Power BI, what you would do is you go to File and then click Publish to Web, and you would get a really big, long, ugly URL. You can take that and can put it in a template component and just paste it there.
There it is.
So one thing about this is you have security through obscurity, but that data is available to the world, and I would not recommend that. But
Got it.
Hey, we're all Skuid builders. We make our own
Yeah.
our own rules. The other way.
The developers in the room are not impressed.
The more secure way is you pretty much go to File and then click Embed, and you have to have a different license for this to even be available.
Okay.
So I think maybe I have a sample license somewhere. My friend Fred still works at Microsoft.
Nice.
He gave me the hookup or something. I don't know, but over in the Skuid page, it's really the same thing. You just go and you add a template component and you paste the big, long, ugly in there in the template.
And you can pass merge values into that URL just like you would with the Google thing as well, right? Yep.
Yeah. So what you get with the second way is the Skuid users would have to sign in to see that. Let's see. I'll see what happens. Maybe
Always-
nothing.
Hey,
Okay.
all
cool.
right,
So
there we go.
everyone likes this. So, that's
Excellent.
the difference. And I think Tableau works the same way, but we might want to hear some others talk about that. So that's
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. All right, good on you. I am actually. Do you think that would that work in Salesforce as well? If we Skuid on Salesforce, the same technique of embedding Power BI in.
without a doubt.
Yeah.
I don't know really.
Okay, got it.
We'll have to test that.
We'll have to test that. Oh, cool. All right. We
Like
got
I
the thumbs
said.
up. All right. Okay. So I'm going to keep us moving. Got a few more things here. Last thing I wanted to point out is I wanted to test V2, embedding content in V2 in Lightning. And so I did that, and we'll go ahead and see what it looks like. And I was able to. I used a deck with a text component, embedding some YouTube in there. And I had a little bit of fun with a case statement and a formula field to put in the lyrics based on the index of the row that we're on. So, and then for the default, it just goes to the never gonna give, never gonna give, never gonna, So anyways, I had some fun with that. So yes, embedding, and I did find there was specifically a community post about how to embed a YouTube video. I think it was like 4 years ago, and then I just saw like a month or two ago someone said, "Hey, thanks for this. I appreciate it." And this is a relatively easy to do in Skuid, in V2, in Lightning. So iframes, you're going to have to use them eventually.
So Matt, you could make your own Skuid page that points to the Skuid basics.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pretty cool.
Mhm.
I like
Yep,
that.
totally.
I like that a lot.
All right. Okay, let's go ahead and keep moving. So we've got Jay and Jackson from our engineering and product side of the building to give us a preview of 12.2, the new release that's coming here in a little bit. All right, what's happening with what's conditional styling? Can you talk about it?
Oh, is this one to me?
Yeah. Who wants to talk about it?
I can talk about it.
Talk about it.
Doesn't
We can talk about it.
matter. Hopefully everyone's familiar with conditional rendering and conditional enabling. Very commonly used features based on conditional logic. We've also had many cases where folks want to be able to update, say, like the status of something by having something red with a particular label, and upon a certain action, you want to change to green with a different label. One way to do that would be with the new conditional styling feature, where basically you leverage the same conditional logic, but what you're able to do is set a component to swap out its current styles for a style variant.
I actually tested this out. I just wanted to try it. And it does work. It's pretty cool. I just have a deck of accounts, and I wanted to highlight it red if it was still open and the close date had passed. And what's really cool about this is I'll just go ahead and show what that actually looks like behind the scenes. This is not live available for other folks. This is special stuff that I get to play with. But the way this works is in this particular wrapper, under your display logic tab, there, in addition to render conditions, you also have style variant conditions. And you can add your logic there, and you can then pull in a style variant from the design system. So you go to the design system, say, this is what a wrapper looks like when something needs attention. And it's red, and the text looks like this. And I've then put some logic here that says only just use this styling when this logic is met. And what's great about this is I don't have to build out that whole thing twice and then conditionally render based on those things. I can build out one field editor or form with those fields, and all I'm switching out is the style. And so it makes managing it a lot easier. And one really great combo is using conditions. This is another thing that I don't think it's out yet, or the viewport with, condition? Is that
Yeah,
available?
that's out.
That's
Yeah,
out.
that's
So something that has already hit is the ability to do rendering based on where is it?
Source type.
Yeah, source type up here, based on viewport width. And so what's really cool now is you can actually build a wrapper that has styling, attributes, everything you need in there for your mobile thing, but have the same component inside it. So you don't have to build it twice. So that's, I put in a bunch of links here. This is something that's been asked for a lot in the community. So we are listening to it, and that's coming soon in 12.2. Okay, moving on. I'm going to talk to this one. Yeah,
Just
sorry,
to interrupt
Zach, what do you
real
got?
quick,
Yeah.
But it is available right now on Skuid Platform. If you want to, one of the great reasons to use Skuid Platform is you're basically getting the latest and greatest stuff all the time.
Oh, so
you
that's available right now on Skuid
Yes.
Platform? The style, the conditional style
Yeah.
variants? Okay, awesome.
Absolutely.
So quick distinction. You can use Salesforce data with Skuid Platform, and you can use Skuid native on Salesforce. Skuid Platform is just bring your own data. And so you can go set up a Skuid Platform account and set up data sources to whatever, SQL database, OData, Microsoft Dynamics 365 for sales, or Salesforce. So that's what we mean when we talk about platform. If you're new to
But
the Skuid
not only is it
ecosystem.
live on platform, it's docked.
It's
Cody.
docked.
Oh, yeah.
Man, fantastic.
So we
All
have
right.
our act together, folks.
Okay, moving on. I just did a quick search, and there were so many posts about this. Date formulas.
Yeah.
All right. So date add, date diff. So JD is one of our formula gurus over on the engineering side. I know he's really excited about this one. So this is another place where it's been requested for a long time, and it's coming. All right, I'm actually just going to breeze through these quickly. What's going on with custom renderers, custom display methods? What do we call them?
We call them custom display methods in V2. 'Cause
Okay.
There are some subtle differences. But you can think of these as the V2 replacement for custom renderers in V1. They allow you to create a custom display for an individual table field or form, that's what they call it in V2. Form field.
Awesome.
Those are coming in 12.2. They are not out on platform.
Okay.
Right.
All right, cool. Zach, I think you spent some time working on message blocks.
Nope.
Nope,
me.
not you?
I'll talk to message
What are
blocks.
message blocks?
Message blocks. So you may have seen them as feedback blocks in the Design System Studio and wondered well,
What's a
how do I
feedback block?
use those in the Composer because there wasn't a build experience for it. So the component has actually existed for a little bit, but we've renamed it and we've added a build experience in the Composer in V2 for message blocks. What we have is these are basically in-app alerts. You can see warnings. You can see in the Design System Studio, Design System comes default with actually 8 variants of these already. I think there's a neutral, basically a success, a warning, and error. And there's both strong and weak variants of those to display. Basically, you add a message area to your page. It just determines where these message blocks appear. And then you use your action framework or your conditional logic, whatever you need to trigger the messages that
Awesome.
you need, and those show up in that message area.
Awesome.
You may have seen them in use, or sometimes we use them internally for page problems sometimes, or you may have seen them already on particular components, like with tables that have a message area as well.
Very cool. And there's a bunch of other things that are coming too. So V2 has a ton of cool stuff, but it also has some things we realize that are catching up to things that have existed in V1 for a while. So I know that there's some things coming there. Filter reordering, some things with field renderers, rendering pick lists as radio buttons, reference fields as pick lists, so on and so forth. These are all things that have been requested in the community, and those are coming too. And then there's some pretty cool new smaller features too, like load all remaining records as a Salesforce data source action. Conditional rendering individual filters. If you go set up a platform instance, there's a really great getting started experience, and that's going to continue to be enhanced as well. A download XML button in the Composer, and page support files is gone because you don't need to do it anymore.
Yeah, that was just some functionality that was needed for
Mhm.
running Skuid
In
in
Lightning.
Lightning experience.
Yep.
That's no longer needed.
So, which is great. We're really happy about it. All right.
If you're on 12.2.
One thing about 12.3 that's on the horizon that you're excited about.
12.3?
Yeah. Do you want to say it? You want to speak to anything?
Undo, redo.
Undo, redo.
In the component.
Yay. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Awesome. Awesome.
Those are honest reactions. This room did not know he was going to say that.
All right. All right. Okay.
Okay, I'll give you one more.
Yeah. What do you got?
Most likely also custom component creation for V2.
What?
Everyone's going nuts.
Even the time turkey liked it.
All right. Okay, so all right, I'm gonna do one last poll. I want to know what is most exciting to you about what we just shared. So please let us know which upcoming feature you're most excited about. And while you do that, I want to quickly talk about Skuid Labs. So Skuid Labs is where you can go and see what people are doing to extend Skuid. And there's a new thing on there called lab reports. Cody, what are lab reports?
Surprise, here's my video. Is it? There we go. So lab reports are,
You want to share?
yeah, sure. Sure. There we go. Can you see my screen? All right. So Skuid Labs was always meant to be this place to show off the cool things that you've made with Skuid. But sometimes that goes a bit beyond, you know, I made this really cool formula function or a custom component. Sometimes it's a little more in-depth. You know, I built this whole app and, you know, you want to go into, well, I ran into this challenge here, so I did X, and to solve this thing over here, I did Y. So we've added this new folder called reports. And our first report actually comes to us courtesy of our SE, Sam Alexander, about tracking usage within Skuid. So
Former SE, now
Product designer.
product designer. All right.
So I'll actually throw this back over to him if that's cool.
Yeah, sure. So I'll go over this really quickly, and I'll show one visual aid just because I think this will be helpful. But rhetorical question: how many times? Well, so this is actually a screen from a customer's org. I wiped it of any information that's unique to them. But how many times have you wanted to know basically the usage of the Skuid pages that you're building? Who are the users that are using it? How many, how is page, how many people are using it over time? And, I know for this particular customer that I built this for, they have offices all over the country. And so they wanted to know how's adoption across those different offices as well. So there's a lot of different things they wanted to track. This one in particular was around page views and page usage. But with this, basically what Cody documented and what I kind of tried to set up was a framework to be able to track anything from page views to particular actions like a button click or using a particular filter in a page. And so this isn't out of the box in Skuid. I think it's probably going to be, it's probably roadmapped for some point. It's definitely something that I hear a lot about. For this particular customer, we wanted to be able to basically track usage or compare usage to increase sales rep performance. We wanted to be able to draw correlations there. And so it was really important that we have that. And so basically all I did was created a custom Salesforce object that's just called Skuid usage. You can call it whatever you want. There's only a few fields on it. Fields are simply the name of the page, so essentially like the instance where that action exists, the running user, the person who performed the action, the action category, so was it a button click, was it a filter, and then you can give it a particular name. So click to call or duplicate record or something like that. And those are all fields in this object, and essentially using Skuid's action sequences, reusable action sequences, you can just create something called create usage record or something like that, and attach that at the beginning of whatever action you want to track. And so if it's page load, you can just say on page load, very quickly create a Skuid usage record and pass in the name of the user, whatever action this was, the name of the page that it was on, and what time it was performed. And so ultimately, what that adds up to is a bunch of Skuid records or a bunch of Salesforce records that have this information, and then you can use Skuid aggregate queries to pop that into charts like you're seeing here. you can filter that by date ranges. You can drill down into, I know for this particular customer, we would actually click into the active user section of this chart, see who's actually using it, how many times per day they were using it, were they using it in the morning, were they using it in the afternoon, and we were getting a lot of really valuable information out of it. So Cody's documented all of that, and it's in the Skuid Labs report, and it basically just walks you through how to set it up on the Salesforce side or whatever backend data source you want to use to track it. You could also track it in a SQL database if you didn't want to load up your Salesforce instance with a bunch of Skuid usage records. You could write it to like a different SQL database or something like that. Same premise.
Cool.
But
that's fantastic. And because what's great about this is that it highlights something that is really important on the product design and product management side of things, which is you want to know if you're right. You want to know, did we build the right thing? And the only way to do that is to track it and to keep track of how people are actually using it. And so when you're working in an enterprise context like this, and you're working with rolling out a product, and in this case, you're rolling out a Skuid pages in Lightning, and you're trying to get folks to use that. You want to be able to know and be able to surface that information. And so that is awesome, and it's all there on Skuid Labs. You can get it today, not for a limited time only. Anytime you want. Okay, awesome. We're not going to slip in on a banana peel this time. We're going to be over a little bit.
All right.
So let's go ahead and talk through. I'm not going to talk about red flags. I just wanted to point out in the past we talked about search, we talked about print. Those are the things that if you hear that, it's a red flag because it's going to require more discovery. You're probably going to get into some things that could end up being a time sink if you don't spend the time to design it well. And another one of those, I would say, is hierarchies. And so I just put some questions to ask and some Skuid capabilities that are going to be really helpful for you if you're trying to build a hierarchy component. It comes up a lot as a Skuid use case. Skuid gives you a lot to deal with it. So you can come look at the PDF if you want to go more in depth. All right, Cody, what's going on with the product content team?
So some recent updates in the past month. If accessibility should always be top of mind whenever you're designing an app. And for V2, we've made a lot of improvements just with our ink components and how those function in terms of accessibility. So we've published our VPAT, which documents a lot of that stuff and how we check different boxes in terms of that. So check that out. We recently revamped our keyboard shortcut stock to better highlight what are the shortcuts that you may use in the app composer versus shortcuts that you may want to design in your own apps. And then something I thought was really cool, Casey on the docs team did a full rewrite of our aggregate model docs, and
Awesome.
she wrote a really great ag model
man.
case study. So that's always been a bit of a cloudy topic for me, and after reading through her work, it's really cleared up a lot of stuff. So if you're new to aggregate models, I encourage you to read through that. And even if you're experienced with them, you may get a bit of a refresher course.
They are very, very, very helpful.
It even has
We use them all the time.
the having clause documented.
Ooh, having
Oh,
clause.
yes. And yeah, coming soon, revamping our filters material. Filters are super powerful, but also super in-depth. So hoping to simplify and, make it more concise, but also hit all the cool features.
Awesome. I do want to take this moment to give a shout out to the product content team for all the
Yes.
awesome docs. that they
Yes.
do. I want to absolutely. Skuid is such a huge product, and it does so many different things. And you guys give us really, really great content. Carl was just pointing out that there's a ton of great how-to stuff on there.
Oh, yeah.
So go check it out, docs.skuid.com. All right, Jay, what's coming up? What has come?
Yeah. Well, we talked about 12.2. Look for that in the near future. But on the maintenance release front, we've got 12.1.9 dropping in the next couple weeks. A couple key things to highlight: pick list entries on Salesforce models not populated and create new row actions. That was a bug that got fixed. If you tried to build in V2 in a Lightning Community Builder, you might have seen an interesting bug where
Oh,
like all the
no.
icons were monstrous, but it was only in the builder, so your runtime users were fine. That's fixed.
Maybe
It
I
made-
like big
It
icons.
made building awkward, but
Yeah.
runtime was
It
fine.
technically
So,
worked.
Can you just call it an Easter egg?
Yeah, exactly.
It was
A
comical.
really big Easter egg.
Component component actions run on a component inside a deck will now they were only running on the last card in the deck. That's been fixed, so you can have card specific actions.
Oh, cool.
Sorry about that. And then there's 6 other defects and enhancements that are going to roll out on the Salesforce side. On the platform side, also dropping the next couple of weeks. We've done a lot of metadata fetching optimization, particularly around our relational data source type. So if anyone's using that,
Which is SQL.
yeah,
That is-
SQL. Sorry,
SQL.
Yeah. I should say that.
Postgres. Yeah.
SQL data source types. I didn't totally just grab those out of Jira and not look at them. You will now have this is an enhancement that's rolling out. You'll have the ability to disable wizard progress indicator buttons. So you'll see them, but if you click on them, they won't do anything. That was requested by someone on the community, maybe Pat actually.
All right,
Anyway,
Pat.
component interactions did not handle go-to URL actions the same way as other action framework figures. So nav components or buttons, if you only had a link in there, you could command click and it would open it in a new tab. Anything that was an interaction, like a deck, didn't do that, but now they will as of 12.1.7.1. We've added selected state styling for list components. That's rolling out V2. And a bug, V2 action, create new rows, ignores
Yay!
the edit mode flag
Uh-huh.
in V2.
Yep.
That's fixed. There were 8 other enhancements specifically charted at performance improvements. I won't go into details, but we did a little bit of a surge. Zach specifically did a little bit of a surge around performance improvements. And this is a fairly big patch.
Dang.
101 total issues
Gosh,
going out the
man.
door. So
That's awesome.
combination of kind of the
Thank
end
you.
of summer and all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. So
We-
looking forward to getting that one out.
And I do just want to stress, we are listening. So when you post stuff to the community, that's where we're going to see what people are hitting on V1 and V2. And Jay's team is working so hard to clear through that and continue to add value with some really great new features that are coming. So thank you to you guys. Let's go. Okay. Poll results, date formulas wins. But it's by a hair.
It's
by a
super
hair.
surprising.
That is surprising.
Yeah.
Really?
I'll take
Yep,
it.
yep.
That's the easiest one
Yep.
to do.
People have spoken.
Yep, there's spoken.
Dun, dun, dun.
Eight of them have a posted.
Yeah.
All right.
It
Hey,
makes sense.
last
It
thing.
makes sense to me too.
Last
So,
thing. If email, just I realize I totally get it. Everyone's got a million things to do, so I'm just going to do this here. If you get a chance and can just click on the link that I just put on the chat and go fill out some feedback for us on the Nautilus Notes. That'll help us continue to make it better. And we also want to hear from you if you've got something really cool that you want to show. Even if we don't end up showing it on the Nautilus Notes, we want to know, and we might call you and see if you can give us a demo. Because it's always great to see Skuid in the wild, see what people are doing with it. So please let us know, give us some feedback. We really appreciate it. All right, that is it for today. Closing ceremonies. I'm going to make a copy. This will be 19.4. And that will come up in, what is the next month after August? September. That's right. All right, very cool. All right, thank you everyone for joining us. We really appreciate you. You guys are doing great work. All right, take care. Woo! Woo-hoo!